So let's see. What? 67,000. How? A potato could guess it better than that. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Tech Al. Today, I'm going to be doing something really exciting, at least to me, because this is a program I wrote a while back, and it was one of the first programs I've ever written. And it was in this obscure kind of learning language. So I'm really excited to be doing this. So let's get into it. All right. So today I have open here the code editor CodePen, and it's the same one I used last time in my last coding video. And I'm going to be coding in JavaScript. So what I'm wanting to make is a program that first generates a random number. It's probably going to be between, I don't know, 0 and 1,000, maybe 0 and 10,000. And then in that program, I'm also going to write a function. And that function will try to guess the random number. And of course, I'm not going to give the function the answer. I'm just going to tell it if it's right or wrong when it guesses. And if it guesses it right, then, it wins. But if it guesses it wrong, all I'm going to tell it is if it's too high or too low. And that's all it has to go by. So with that, I'm going to see how few guesses the program will take to get it right. I'm thinking I might be able to get it below 10, or like an average of below 10. But I don't know. So let's get to it. To start, I'm going to make a function. And I'm going to call it random num. And in that function, I'm going to have to generate a random number. So to do that in JavaScript, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a variable called num, I guess. And what I'm going to use is I'm going to use the math.random function. So when you do that, be math.random, and then when you call that, it will pick any number between 1 and 0, which in this case is not that useful. So what I'm going to do is make it any number between 1 and 0 times 1,000. So now it's any number between 0 and 1,000. But still, it could be like, I don't know, 550.11359. It's really, really in depth. It goes into a lot of decimal places. So another thing I'm going to use, and I'm going to wrap this around the math.random function, is the math.floor. So what that does, it rounds down any number, any decimal number. So math.floor. And now if we're going to console.log this, it's going to give us any number between 1 and 1,000. So let's call the function, and in the console, it gives us 732. And before it gave us 763. That's great. Let's try it one more time. And it gives us 719. And we'll try it again. And it gives us 563. So that's nice. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to make a second function. And that function is going to be the function that guesses the random number. Nice. And I named that function number guesser. So what we're going to do now is we're going to declare some variables. So we're going to need one variable. I guess we'll call it guess. And let's globally declare this. I think that'll come in handy later. Let guess. And now of course, that's kind of obvious what that's going to be. We're going to use that to guess the number. That's going to be the number the function guesses. So the way we could do that, just to start, is make the number guess in between 0 and 1000. And for that, I'm going to declare two more functions. One is going to be the function called max guess, and the other one is going to be a variable, called minimum guess. There. So now with those two, I'm going to use those as, obviously the maximum it's going to guess and the minimum it's going to guess. And to write that, it's going to be pretty similar to the random generation one. So I'm going to have guess equal to math.random times the maximum guess minus the minimum guess. So if you do that, you get the difference between the maximum and the minimum, and that's the range of what you're going to guess. So in this case, maximum is, let's make that 1000. Let's make the minimum 0. For now, because that's the range in which the random number is going to be generated as. And then we'll slowly get more and more specific, but I'll get into that next. And one more thing. Again, we're going to need to wrap the math.random thing in a math.floor. So let's do that. There. Alright, so now we have it. We have a function that guesses the random number. Of course, it only guesses it once. So it's probably not going to guess it right. There's a 1 in 1,000 chance of doing that. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to move this down a bit. And we're going to make a for loop. Or let's make a while loop instead. And inside of this, we're going to say, as long as guess is not equal to the random number, or num, it's going to keep guessing over and over again. And now, I want to see how many guesses it takes, of course. So we're going to declare another global variable, and we're going to call this one guesses, I guess. Oh, sorry. Alright, so now we have a variable that we will use to track how many guesses it takes. And now, a simple way to write that is we're going to set guesses to 0 to start. And then, that's outside of the while loop. And inside the while loop, every time it guesses a number, we're going to say guesses plus plus. And then, once it's done this, so right now, all of this is in the while loop. So once it finishes it, it'll move, once it gets it right, it'll move out of the while loop and into this last part of the function. And there, we're going to have it return guesses. Oops. There. And now, if we console.log guesses, yes. Alright, so it's undefined because I forgot to declare the function. So I'm going to say num guesser. There, I declared it. And now, if you look at it, did I declare something wrong? Oh, I see. I just spelled it wrong. My bad. So now, we declared that, and we're going to see in the console. Shoot. I don't know which one's which. I do know, though, that this can't, 1,341, cannot be the random number, because the random number can only go up to 1,000. So I'm guessing it took the guesser more guesses than there were even numbers. That's really bad. Yeah, okay, that's really bad. So we're gonna obviously need to improve that. And the way to improve that is by telling the function to never guess any number that it knows cannot be the random number. Let me explain. Say the random number is 500. If the function guesses 700, it'll be told it's wrong and that it's too high. So now the function should know that any number over 700 is obviously also too high. And then say it guesses again and it guesses 300 and it's told 300 is too low. Now it should know that any number under 300 is also too low. And in that way, it can slowly narrow what the number can be, lower and lower and lower, closer to what the number is. Because guessing a number between 300 and 700, as opposed to guessing a number between 0 and 1,000, is a lot more efficient. It's guessing out of 400 numbers instead of guessing out of 1,000, which is more than twice as efficient. So the way to do that is we're going to need two if statements. We're going to need to put them in the while loop. So if guess is smaller than the random number, then what we're going to do is we're going to make minimum guess equal guess. And that way it will narrow down the minimum guess each time we guess. And we're going to do the same for the maximum guess. If the guess is bigger than the random number, then max guess is going to equal guess. And now, what this should do is it should slowly narrow down the numbers, and it should be a lot more efficient. So let's see. What? What? 67,000. How? A potato could guess it better than that. Alright, clearly I made a mistake. So, I think I know what it is, actually. When we get maximum guess minus minimum guess, it gets the difference between those two numbers. But it will start the range from 0 to whatever that distance is. So if max was 700 and minimum was 300, then it would guess any number from 0 to 400. I think. Although that doesn't explain how it took 67,000 guesses and just didn't ever happen. But I don't know. So what I think we have to do is we have to add all the numbers by the minimum guess again. So that way it starts the range of guessing from whatever the minimum is to whatever the maximum is. So I think that should work. So let's try it now. 12. Yeah, well, that's a lot more efficient. That's actually really good. Let's try it again. 16. Alright, so it's still pretty low. Yeah, I like that. So, another way I think we could make it more efficient is by, instead of starting the number between 1 and 1,000, just randomly guessing any number, I will start the guess at 500. So that way it will immediately split it in half. Either the guess is too high or too low. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the variable guess, and I'm going to assign it to 500 before the while loop. So now, oh, it just did it. Now it's 9. Let's try that again. 12. Again. 15. 10. Alright. So, yeah, I mean, I'd say it's slightly decreased. I don't know if the average would be under 10, but it's still pretty close. So, I would say that's a win. I'm happy with the result. We have created a program that makes a random number and then guesses its own random number as efficiently as possible. Well, probably there's more efficient ways, I'm guessing. Before we do it, let's turn the random number to 10,000 and the max guess to 10,000. Let's just see what will happen then. Oh, so now it's 11 guesses. And the random number is 9,000. And 20, okay. So yeah, it's increased a bit, but not 10 times. So that's really interesting. Wow. Alright. So that's about all for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, why don't you leave a like? Maybe even subscribe. I'll be posting pretty much every week, I'd say, and probably on Mondays. So, yeah, if you do like this content, subscribe and click that bell for more notifications. And if you don't like the content, you can leave a dislike. You can comment. Please comment, actually, about what I'm doing wrong, because I really want to improve myself. This is my second video, so I'm pretty new to this. So I'm just trying to improve my videos. So just tell me, am I talking too fast? Am I talking too slow? What am I doing wrong? And I'll try to improve that for the next video. So yeah, this is all, and I'll see you next week.